Concerning the Bodyguard by Donald Barthelme. Does the bodyguard scream at the woman who irons his shirts, who has inflicted a brown burn on his yellow shirt purchased expensively from Yves Saint Laurent, a great brown burn just over the heart? Does the bodyguard principal make conversation with the bodyguard as they wait at the light to change, in the dull gray Citroën, with the second bodyguard who is driving? What is the tone? Does the bodyguard's principal comment on the brown young women who flock along the boulevard, or the young men on the traffic? Has the bodyguard ever enjoyed a serious political discussion with his principal? Is the bodyguard frightened by the initials D.I.T.? Is the bodyguard frightened by the initials C.N.D.? Will the bodyguard be relieved today in time to see the film he has in mind, Emmanuel Around the World? Will there be a queue for tickets? Will there be students in the queue? Is the bodyguard frightened by the slogan, Remember 17 June? Is the bodyguard frightened by black spray paint, tall letters ghostly on the edges, on this wall, on this wall? At what level of education did the bodyguard leave school? Is the bodyguard sufficiently well paid? Is he paid as well as a machinist, as well as a foreman, as well as an army sergeant, as well as a lieutenant? Is the Citroën armored? Is the Mercedes armored? What is the speed of the Mercedes? Can it equal that of a BMW motorcycle, several BMW motorcycles? Does the bodyguard gauge the importance of his principal in terms of the number of bodyguards he requires? Should there not be other cars leading and following his principal's car? They're also filled with bodyguards. Are there sometimes such additional precautions, and does the bodyguard at these times feel himself part of an ocean of bodyguards? Is he exalted at these times? Does he wish for even more bodyguards, possibly flanking the cars to the right and left, and a point car far ahead? After leaving trade school, what sort of enterprises did the bodyguard engage before accepting his present post? Has he ever been in jail? For what sort of offense? Has the bodyguard acquired a fondness for his principal? Is there mutual respect? Is there mutual contempt? When his principal takes tea, is the bodyguard offered tea? Beer? Who pays? Can the bodyguard deduce instances of professional success? Had he a previous client? Is there a new bodyguard in the group of bodyguards? Why? How much does pleasing matter? What services does the bodyguard provide for his principal other than the primary one? Are there services he should not be asked to perform? Is he nevertheless asked from time to time to perform such services? Does he refuse? Can he refuse? Are there, in addition to the bodyguard's agreed-upon compensation, tips? Of what size? On what occasions? In the restaurant, a good table for his principal and the distinguished gray man with whom he is conferring. Before it, between the two principals and the door, a table for the 4 bodyguards. What is the quality of the conversation between the 2 sets of bodyguards? What do they talk about? Soccer, perhaps. Hollands versus Peru, a match which they have all seen. Do they rehearse the savaging of the Dutch goalkeeper Piet Schrijvers by the bastard Peruvian? Do they discuss Schrijvers' replacement by the brave Jan Jungvloot, and what happened next? Has the bodyguard noted the difference in quality between his suit and that of his principal, between his shoes and those of his principal? In every part of the country, large cities and small towns, bottles of champagne have been iced, put away, reserved for a celebration, reserved for a special day. Is the bodyguard aware of this? Is the bodyguard tired of waking in a small room on the Calais Caspe, smoking a royal filter, and then getting out of bed and throwing wide the curtains to discover again 8 people standing at the bus stop across the street in postures of depression? Is there on the wall of the bodyguard's small room a poster showing Bruce Lee in a white robe with his feet positioned in such a way, his fingers outstretched in such a way? Is there a rosary made of apple beads hanging from a nail? Is there a mirror whose edges have begun to craze and flake? Are there small, blurrish Polaroids stuck along the left edge of the mirror? Polaroids of a woman in dark blue scarf and 2 lean children in red pants. Is there a pair of dark blue trousers, plus a long-sleeve shirt, worn once already, hanging in the dark brown wardrobe? Is there a coir fold-out of a naked young woman torn from the magazine VIR, taped inside the wardrobe door? Is there a bottle of Long John Scotch atop the cheese-colored mini refrigerator? 2-burner hot plate? Dull green ceramic pot on the windowsill containing an unhealthy plant? A copy of Explication du Tai Chi by Bruce Tegner? Does the bodyguard read newspapers of his principal's party? Is he persuaded by what he reads there? Does the bodyguard know which of the great blocs his country aligned itself with during the Second World War, during the First World War? Does the bodyguard know which countries are the preeminent trading partners of his own country at the present time? Seated in a restaurant within his principal, the bodyguard is served involuntarily turtle soup. Does he recoil as the other eats? Why is this near skeleton, his principal, of such importance to the world that he deserves 6 bodyguards? 2 to a shift, with the shifts changing every 8 hours. 6 bodyguards of the first competence, plus supplementals on occasion. 2 armored cars, stun grenades, ready to hand over the front seat. What has he meant to the world? What are his plans? Is the retirement age for bodyguards calculated as is for other citizens? Is it earlier? 55? 45? Is there a pension? In what amount? Those young men with dark beards staring at the Mercedes or staring at the Citroën, who are they? Does the bodyguard pay heed to the complaints of his fellow bodyguards about the hours spent waiting outside this or that ministry, this or that headquarters, hours spent propped against the fenders of the Mercedes while his principal is within the secure walls? Is the thick glass of these specially prepared vehicles thick enough? Are his fellow bodyguards reliable? Is the new one reliable? Is the bodyguard frightened by young women of good family? Young women of good family whose handbags contain God knows what? Does the bodyguard feel that the situation is unfair? Will the son of the bodyguard, living with his mother in a city far away, himself become a bodyguard? When the bodyguard delivers the son of his principal to school where all the children are delivered by bodyguards, does he stop at the grocer's on the way to buy the child a peach? Does he buy himself a peach? Will the bodyguard, if tested, be equal to the task? Does the bodyguard know which foreign concern was the successful bidder for the construction of his country's nuclear reprocessing plant? Does the bodyguard know that the general's amnesty of April coincides with the rearrest of 60 persons? Does the bodyguard know that the new liberalized press laws of May were a provocation? Does the bodyguard patronize a restaurant called the Crocodile, a place packed with young, loud, fat communists? Does he spill a drink to disclose his spite? Is his gesture understood? Are the streets full of stilt walkers weaving 10 feet above the crowd in great papier-mâché bird heads, black and red costumes, whipping 30 feet of colored cloth above the heads of the crowd, miming the rape of a young female personage symbolizing the country? In the Mercedes, the bodyguard and his colleagues stare at the hundreds, men and women, young and old, who move around the Mercedes, stopped for a light as if it were a rock in a river. In the rear seat, the patron is speaking into a telephone. The people pressing around the car cannot be counted. There are too many of them. They cannot be known. There are too many of them. They cannot be predicted. They have volition. Then, an opening. The car accelerates. Is it the case that on a certain morning the garbage cans of the city, the garbage cans of the entire country, are overflowing with empty champagne bottles? Which bodyguard is at fault?